And I said that was not appropriate. Which my husband said that was not an affirmative environment according to him, because he reads your materials. So they said when I was coming this morning, I forgot my time or my phone or what. We said that's not really very, like a misstep, though it could be to you. So we now asked that, are they live missteps? They said many, many, many. So we said they should share in the class as a whole. And they said they will not share them, that they would like to say them privately. Mm-hmm. So conclude them. You don't kill yourself for making mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you share a misstep yourself and model this?
I don't remember. What I shared was I shared about the big dream.
Okay, but so next time when you meet, I want you to start this conversation about missteps. And you don't necessarily have an exercise about missteps or mistakes every single time. But in the very beginning, you want to make sure that they understand the importance of it. So we kind of drive it home the first several sessions. So I want you to tell me, I want you to think of a mistake or a misstep. We should have them all the time. But select one that maybe is going to show your vulnerability, okay? And share it. And when you do that, you're modeling the fact that you're taking a risk by showing your vulnerability within that group, who is looking at you as the almighty type of thing, right? Oh my gosh, she's a facilitator. Oh my gosh, she knows what she's doing. And then all of a sudden you slam them with, look at what I did, and you're showing them yourself, and you're constantly wanting to make sure that you are on the same level as them, right? I mean, you want them to look up to you and respect you as a facilitator, but you want them to love you and embrace you as another as another human. You know what I'm saying? Within the group. So you want to select a misstep that you've had over the next few weeks. It could be something in previous, something before. I don't care. But select one and model it. And then ask them, is there anybody who would like to share as well? And if they don't, it's okay. And, and see.
Yeah, that's very important, because we're expecting that during the next class, we're going to collect those cards that they wrote about the missteps. That we're all going to discuss that. That was the assignment they took home.
Okay, so what you could do is you could do this as a group, a whole group exercise where a few people say, oh, well, I made this mistake or that mistake, right? And you have to debrief it with the PPCO. Right? I'm just writing this down, and I'm going to send that to you so that you can do that. And actually, on Tuesday, when we talk, I want you to present me with one of your missteps, and then I'm going to walk you through the process of debriefing it. Okay? So put that on our topic for on Tuesday, and then you'll know how to do this with them. Okay, so you can do this as a group. If you think your group is, if you get one person, one or two people to talk about a mistake, that's great. If you feel like you're getting a little bit of pushback from your group, you might, let's say you have 12 people, you might go into 4 groups of 3 and have this little individual groups and have them do this. With 3 people, as opposed to private. It's more private, right? And then you just want them to go through, talk about their missteps or whatever, and then start to feel comfortable with that process, right? So they're gaining trust as a group, and so on and so forth. So you're going to make a determination next time on the dynamics of the group. You're gonna feel it. You will definitely feel it. Whether it's just a little too much for them, and if so, put them into little groups and have them do the exercise. See if that helps, because they're talking amongst themselves. Then, so I didn't send you the video of redirection of force. I have to do that. I will do that. It's a very short video. It literally takes me less than a minute to teach this. I'm going to actually do 2 of them. And one is going to teach you the actual movement. And then the second one is going to give it to you in application. Okay, which means why would I do this? And if I do this, how might it look like after I do it? So I'm going to send that to you for next time. So for the home play, you gave them the mistakes exercise, which is great. Now, what was their impression of the dreaming when you introduced dreaming to them?
We spoke about the dream. I gave an example of my own dream and asked them to give examples of their dreams and so on. So I realized that they still have their dreams. They are still dreaming. Oh. They have not lost hope.
That's awesome. So they're still dreaming. They haven't lost hope. And you told me that you shared a dream with them?
Yeah, I shared a dream. I told them when I was growing up, I had a dream of growing up to have an organization that will help people and this and that. And I told them the dream is being fulfilled, though it took years. I didn't give up. So they began to open up their dreams, and we asked them. Then when we were sharing the dreams, we were talking about dreams. I was like, your dream should not be centered around money, on how you're going to get money. What will your dream do to humanity? Trying to refocus them on having dreams that will affect others, not just thinking of having food to eat. So we spoke on that, and they're getting some balance and having some lofty dreams. So it was a sign that all hope is not lost. They are not too down.
And you just introduced the methodology of servant leadership.
Okay.
Right? Because you said dreams that basically that help others, that pay it forward. Yeah. And servant leadership is all about paying it forward. So you introduced that methodology of servant leadership and didn't even know it. Right?
Wow.
So, yeah. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you a recap. And the recap will contain all the things that you captured or that you touched upon on all these methodologies going through, which you're going to then present to and share with the group. So number one, you're going to learn, wow, I just learned how to do this, and this. I just taught this, and this, which adds to your skill set as a trainer, facilitator, and all of that. But then you're going to share it with the group, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I learned this, and that. So they're going to start to be able to chart their progress of personal growth and development, which is really, really important. When I share these recaps with my group previous, they're like, really? I learned that? I learned this? Wow. And you can put it all on their resume. That's the other great thing. Everything that they're learning through this year is all resume material. And these are all things that nobody gets taught at a university. Do you know what I mean? Like this, So these are all wonderful kinds of things. So interesting how, you say it wasn't just about dreaming, but you brought it a step further. And it was about paying it forward and helping other people, which is a really beautiful thing and a beautiful approach and a guided approach, which I really, really love. So how are you asking them to capture their dreams?
We spoke to them. I spoke to them to get what are they most interested in? What can they do even if they are not paid?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things. What can they do for free? If they say you have this thing to do, or what do you really like doing?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you are paying money, those are some of the things we put in place.
Okay, and I want to also throw in there, approach it with, if they say, well, I don't know what I like, you know, you can rephrase that as, well, what gives you energy? What brings you joy? What makes you happy? What can you imagine doing for 10 hours a day, sick as a dog? You know what I mean? So that even if you're sick, you're going to push through and do something because you love it so much.
Mm-hmm.
Is there such a thing? You know, I don't know, but what gives them energy? And if they start looking at it in that respect, they're going to start finding out their mission or their vision or their purpose in life. Because, you know, the ultimate is to really enjoy what you're doing. You know, 8 hours a day and work or whatever. Or, you know, sometimes, you know, there's lots of us who have to have a job just to pay the bills. But you know what? There's something else that we can do on the side. We can volunteer or do things that are gonna fulfill our sense of purpose in life. And the job is just that bridge to allow us to do these other things. So, you know, there's this, you know, you can start this whole process of dreaming in many different ways. It will literally web out and lead to many different areas of a person's life. But how did you ask them to capture those dreams, to bring them back to you and share? Did you ask them to write it on a piece of paper, think about it in their head? How?
We ask them to write it down. That it's important to write down your dreams, capture your dreams, and write them down. Then I remember we're talking. We emphasize the importance of focus in a dream, putting your energy towards your dream, telling your energy towards your dream.
Mm-hmm.
Then we touched a little on fulfilling this. Can these dreams be fulfilled? We told them about possibilities of dreams being fulfilled. There must be focus, your energy towards that. Those are some of the things we spoke.
And what was their reaction when you said, we want you to dream again?
Well, it's not really getting new dreams. We just asked them what their dreams were, and I realized that they do have dreams. Some of them maintain their dreams. Somebody like Cynthia has been consistent. She said she wants to be a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Like Barbara, those were their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Then most of them came what they had spoken about, the big dream. So this also gave me a sense of direction. It made me know that they were kind of sincere about those were their real passions.
Now, Barbara was there, right?
Yeah, Barbara was there.
Did she speak about how she is pursuing a dream?
Yes, Barbara spoke about relinquishing a dream.
Oh.
She said she had become a medical doctor, but things are not going the way it should be in the country, and finances and all of that. She's decided to go back to a different dream, which is being a hairdresser and all of that.
And at that point, did you use it as an opportunity to tell them that sometimes the dreams that we hold dear, sometimes we have to relinquish them in order to make room for new dreams?
I did not particularly say that, but I understood that that's what Barbara was saying, relinquishing. But another thing I said was it's never late to achieve a dream. I gave an example of my friend who went through school and realized she wanted to become a journalist, and she fell back, went back to school, and she's presently becoming a journalist. And I particularly gave that to Mabel, who is interested in becoming a journalist, and I told them dreams are achievable.
That's awesome. And if and remember the Randy Posh book that I gave you as a PDF. Remember he talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I got the idea from.
And that was the impetus for me relinquishing my dream and then finding my graduate program, and here I am today. So if I had not relinquished my dream of becoming a published author or writer, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. So
that's right.
It's
you're affecting lives.
But it's hard to relinquish a dream, because it's a part of you, So what a wonderful, perfect segue to talk about dreaming and having Barbara talk about how she relinquished her one and found another one. So that's awesome. Okay, so then what were their learning outcomes?
It's unfortunate I don't have the material on the laptop. I combined them on pieces of papers.
You can take photos of those and send them to me, or you can transcribe them. However you want, whatever's easier for you, but I definitely need those learning outcomes.
I've typed them already. It's
in
the report.
Can you also take can you take photos of them?
Okay.
And just send them.
On WhatsApp.
I'm sorry?
I didn't send you the report on Gmail. It's a report I put together already.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
But do you have that's fine, but do you have can you take photos of their learning outcomes on the piece of paper?
Okay.
I want to use who was it?
That was written by right?
Oh, so it wasn't written by them.
Not them. We took the outcomes away. I told you we had you said I should call not a secretary. We had somebody that was taking those, but other was helping in note taking. So we'll take from those notes. I'll snap them and send you on WhatsApp.
Yes. Take a photo of that for me. I would like to see the tactile part of it, the handwritten part of it. And I like to use that when I post and share that information across social media and stuff.
Okay.
But can you just tell me a couple of them, just to give me an idea of what they are?
The learning outcomes, please let me check. I've mastered a lot of things and
That's okay. I mean, if it's going to be a problem, that's okay. I'm just wondering.
I wrote them down somewhere. The learning outcomes. Let me check them. let's just go ahead. I'll get those ready.
Okay, that's fine. Send them to me. Now, in regards to the learning outcomes, I want you to always, that's like our anchor, our Bible, so to speak. We have to make sure that we, at the end of this year, that those are that's their takeaways. They want to take away these things. So it's up to us to, it's not about what we think they need, it's about what they need. So these learning outcomes are telling us what they need, okay, and what they want in relation to their freedom, okay? So from time to time, we're going to bring these back throughout the year. We're going to say, hey, you know what, these are our learning outcomes, and guess what? We've actually obtained or achieved several of these learning outcomes already, right? And you might then say to them, would you like to add any more? Or you might like to say, you know what, these were our learning outcomes. We're still working on them. We haven't achieved them completely. Are there any other learning outcomes now that you've been in the program for a few months? Is there anything else you'd like to add? Okay? So, because as a person grows and learns, all of a sudden they become like a sponge and they want to learn more. Or they want, you know, that sort of thing. And you want to always capture that growth. And you never want to plateau a person, right? You don't, you know, so if let's say one of those learning outcomes was whatever it was, and it was achieved by 1 out of the 10 cohort members, and you might want that person who's already achieved one of their learning outcomes to then create another one. So these learning outcomes as a group, first of all, they have to be agreed to, right? So if you notice that there's a learning outcome there that only one person out of the whole cohort it's important to, you're not going to spend all your time in every group session surrounded about that one learning outcome for one person. But if it's overall, you're going to work on these learning outcomes. But you might do a sidebar with that one person who is really hung up on learning or really wanting to learn this sort of thing or take away this sort of thing. You might sidebar that and say, okay, I know the rest of the group, this isn't of major importance to them, but I know it is with you. So I want to capture that. I don't want to forget about it. And I'm going to sidebar you and work with you on the side with this. So that's why it's important to know what these learning outcomes are. And if they're all by group, you know, the whole group agrees to them, then you're good to go. But if you notice that the group isn't, you know, hell-bent on 1 or 2 of these, then you want to sidebar them. Do you know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And
at the end of the lesson, we're trying to collect their expectations and all of those, and we put them together. So I'm wondering, there are a lot of things on my mind. I just dropped the paper by.
Okay, you know what? When you get it to me, I'll have some time to review it, and I can, because my lesson plans from here on out, although I have boilerplates on all of them, are going to be targeted toward these learning outcomes. So that's why it's important to, you know, to have these. So when you get them to me, I'll have a chance to start looking through them, and then I'll start building out an agenda.
Because I remember one of them said, okay, I asked, no, that would have been some kind of summary. I asked, why are you here, and what do you expect this course will do for you?
Mm-hmm.
So they said, we have problems in life. I'm just paraphrasing.
Mm-hmm.
We have problems in life, and we expect these problems to be solved. We expect to be helped. We have emotional problems, psychological problems, and we are expecting that by the end of the course, some of those problems should be solved, financial problems. And I told them that when they're emotionally not okay, not sound, I was kind of explaining the purpose again, that when they're emotionally not very sound, no matter what they give to them in the form of business or whatever, it might crash. So it is time to get them balanced emotionally, psychologically, and that was important of the course we are taking. So if I'm correct, the learning outcome would have been what they said, that they have problems in life and they are expecting to get them solved. They have emotional problems, they have financial difficulties, or relationship issues, and that they are expecting that at the end of this, they will get out of those problems.
Perfect response. Very.
Okay.
It's exactly true. You know, you can learn all kinds of stuff, but if you're not emotionally well equipped and emotionally balanced, you're not going to make the hard choices or the choices that you need. You're not going to have the clarity or the objectivity to make the choices that are necessary to make in order to advance yourself financially and every other way. So good response. But you know what? I'll tell you, the other thing is they've just heightened the bar for us. They've just raised the bar for us.
Okay.
Because not only are they in it, not only do they want to meet 3 times a month, and we had to say, okay, we're going to do 2, right? Not only have they said we are here, but they've also said we want our issues resolved by the end of this year. And they have.
Please, let me ask, was that a learning outcome?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I took that. I really didn't know what the outcomes are because I did not write the heading as learning outcome. I remember at the end of lesson, that's what because we took in lesson presentation you introduce, then you reintroduce again. So we went back talking about that, and they came up with that. They told us why. So I think those are the outcomes.
Yeah, they just raised the bar. They just basically said, "You're going to teach us that? Okay, good, because we expect you to teach us all that." So we're over here, and they just said, "Really?" Because we're here, and you better reach for us. You better challenge us.
Yeah.
You better teach us, and we want to walk away greater than ever before. That's a huge challenge.
And I told them that the reason they need to be taught and equipped was because we're not just raising people who are going to look for fish to eat. We're going to train them even as leaders, because we are doing an outreach. And I told them, I was naming their communities one after the other. I said, I cannot reach out to your community. You're going to reach out. You're going to be the one leading the way to help others that are like you in different communities. So we are also raising you in the area of leadership. If you think you are not a leader, you should know that you are a leader.
Yeah, and how did you feel saying that?
I felt good.
Yeah. Did you get a really great feeling that, you know, there was just this greatness among you?
Yes, and like you said, you've also encouraged that the 9 was not a bad number. So,
yes.
Yeah, that was so encouraging. I was not comfortable with that. It was encouraging.
Well, remember when I started this whole program, I was promised 15, and I walked away with 1 completing. So that's like 99% dropout rate, right? So, but one person is a soul, and one person can touch many. So even if you ended with 1 person, you know, you're touching many. You know.
And I want to say that there's a lot of positivity in them. They are coming up. Though they are very, very vulnerable. Some don't have what to eat. Some are barely struggling. Those who have children, they are going through a lot of things. But they are still very positive having you, having us, and knowing that we care about them, knowing that the world, like from this, from what you sent, the video you made, you said their eyes on us and all of that. That was a great set. It gave them a lot of hope. They are down now. I told them they are not going to be down forever. Then we also spoke of Barbara, who is already, they know, who is already somewhere learning a trade that's going to pull her out of some kind of situations. She's already out of some kind of things and so on. And that was a thing of hope to a lot of them. And for those who are interested in hairdressing, they now know that by June or whatsoever, they'll be placed somewhere to train. So when they graduate, so it's sparking hope in them. It's really Jackie and the health situation. It was not good, no food, no this. Now they have knowledge, they cannot be re-trafficked. So I just said they could persevere for a while.
Now, may I ask? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Then I was kind of getting a little, that's when I came back to the house. I told my husband, but it's like the burden is kind of too much. This person is in trouble. This person has not eaten. This person is this. And he said, God will provide for us to help them in the way we can. So we are making great impact. We are making impact.
I guess it's you really have to trust your faith and trust that God will provide. And you know, I was watching a sermon the other day. You know, I train every morning now from 7 to 9. And I haven't done that in many years. And I'm not sure if I told you this or before or not, but I used to train, you know, all the time. And it was my church. It was my time with God. I would speak to him. I was focused. I always re-anchored. And now 7 to 9 a.m. I listen to gospel music. I listen to sermons. And I just refocus and re-anchor myself every single day. And I was listening to a sermon by T.D. Jakes the other day, and he's a big pastor here out in, I think it's Dallas, Texas. But he talked about how, you know, we can be like really, really, you know, there's like really, really up, and we're like you were after that session, or before the session, you were really up and high. Then it all happened. Then you were walking home, and you're like, oh my gosh. All of a sudden, those thoughts creep in that I don't know if I can do this. This is really overwhelming. This is really hard, right? And what T.D. Jakes was saying was those thoughts that creep in, they're like a whisper. They're like the wind, and that the little G is taking effect. And the little G, meaning the little God, meaning Satan. He kind of creeps in with those thoughts like you can't handle it. But you have to always remember, and thank goodness your husband did. He pulled you right back, and he said, wait a second. God is greater, God is stronger than any thought that you might not be good enough or have the strength or be able to get through this. So keep in mind, sometimes and this is normal, we all have those thoughts creep in. But remember, little G, he calls him little G. And it's like, little G, he not today, buddy, not today, right? And
I like his sermons.
And it really made it just hit home to me, because there are many times when I say, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I'm training 2 people, you know, you and Ronnie at the same time. And then overseeing, you know, the cohort and all of it, and I'm getting overwhelmed, and then I have to say stop, because you know what, God never puts anything in our path that we can't handle, and it's because He doesn't expect us to handle it. He expects us to let Him handle it.
Wow, let me write that down. You can say that again. He doesn't expect us to handle it. I'll share that with my husband. Wow. So he expects that we should expect him to handle it, right?
Right. He doesn't expect us to handle it. He expects us to allow him to handle it. We got to get out of his way.
Okay.
Basically, we got to get out of our way. We got to get out of his way so he can take care of business. Yeah. And you know what? You are absolutely correct in thinking that the burden is heavy. And the burden is tremendous. But you know what? All you can do is what you can do. And you just keep moving forward. You just keep plugging away, and you do the best that you can. And you know, you went into this expectation of this first session, basically like, all right, I got this. And you walked out saying, oh, I don't have this. Wow. You know? And I'm going to tell you, I knew you were going to feel that way because you're a very confident, very intelligent young woman. And you know what you're doing. You have a purpose in hand and in heart and in soul. And by golly, you're going to get it done. And you have that determination. You have that resolve. You have that resilience. But sometimes you got to get knocked down to appreciate the growth and the stepping up and the learning, right? And the learning curve. And if you walked in there saying, I've got this, and you walked out saying, I got that, I'd have to say you didn't grow. And you didn't learn anything. But you know what? The wealth of what you learned was enormous. It was tremendous. And you know what? It isn't even going to stop because, you know what? Tomorrow or the next day you might think, oh wow, and that too. Or, you know what? I need to get better at this or that. But keep it balanced, Seraphine, and be kind to yourself. Because you can't possibly take care of it all. You have to, you're constantly relinquishing to the fact that you're going to do whatever you can. And with the knowledge that really, let's say you have an agenda and you wanted to teach 10 things and you only got to 5. You know what? The robustness, the quality of what you taught for those 5 agenda items is probably way outweighs just getting through 10 just to get through 10. Right? Because sometimes, I'm going to give you an agenda and it ain't going to work. And you're going to say, you know what? We just got stuck on this one part of the agenda. But we had a great conversation. And I'm going to say, there you go. That's what you need. That's what God needed you to spend the time on. And that's okay. So the only thing I want you to get through an agenda is your opening prayer and your debrief. And whatever happens in between happens. Okay? Now, if you get through your agenda, that's great too. But you will find from time to time that the group just needs to have a chat. Or they just need to talk. And your whole agenda goes it's gone. But you have your opening prayer, you have whatever is in between, and then you debrief, capture, always debrief, and capture what happened in your meeting. Okay? Your debrief is going to keep you, it's going to advise whether you did your job for that session. Okay? So, again, we can't have sessions like that every time because then we'll never get through what we need to get through. But I'm just letting you know, be aware that sometimes understand the dynamics of your group. And if you feel as though their energy level is really low, you got to punt, basically. You gotta stray from your agenda sometimes. So you'll see as you go ahead. You'll get a feeling for it. Let me ask you this: Did you and your husband have any conversation after? And did he say any? What was his take on all of this?
When we came back, I told him because his way of teaching was different. His way of teaching is different. His way of facilitating is different. He has been long into stuff like this than me. So when we came back, he was like, "This is how you went. You don't stick. You could." He told me I stayed too close to the agenda you sent.
Mm-hmm.
I could, I was too tight to it, too glued to it. Mm-hmm. I could diversify and put a little,
mm-hmm.
and not stick.
Mm-hmm.
What he told me,
mm-hmm.
and he also told me following us. He was interested, and he has been encouraging. He said, "I don't know what I'm learning." He said, "I don't know what I'm learning. I'm being trained, but I don't know. That I should value being trained and take it serious. I should not be talking about," because I was afraid that the girls or the ladies will say they want to meet once a month. So he said, if we are talking about meeting once a month, then we don't yet value what is at our hands or in our hands. So when we got there and the call was talking about 3, he said, "I told you, you are the one who don't know what you have." So we're just talking about things like that. Mm-hmm. So he has shown interest. He always show up except otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Though he has not done our website.
Mm-hmm. That's okay.
So, though he has not done our website.
Mm-hmm. Interesting that what he is telling you is what I just talked about, and which is when he said you're too close to the agenda. What he's saying is you're being too restricted of all of that. I want you to know, and what I just said before about sometimes you got to veer away from your agenda. If there's one thing about creativity, which everything that I teach, all 9 of those fall under creativity. Creativity is adaptive and flexible.
Okay.
And you're going to weigh that according to your group and your group dynamics. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you sticking to the agenda this time, right? Because I totally understand that, because you're like, okay, this is all new, but I'm going to go in and I'm going to barrel through it. And I have this obligation, not only to the cohort, not only to myself, not only to God, but to Kathysue. And she is expecting me to be all this in a bag of chips. Okay? So that's way too much stress. I want you to just be you, and I want you to relax, because you will never, ever disappoint me. Ever. Okay? And you know what? This comes through time. This comes through practicing and having a knowledge of what you're teaching. I was the exact same way when I started. I wouldn't veer off anything. And it took me about 3 years before I said, you know what? I'm going to go in without an agenda today. Because I am going to push myself for growth. And an agenda is great, and there's many pluses to an agenda. But I wanted to push myself further. And I wanted to throw myself to the wolves, so to speak. So I walked in every so often I walk in with nothing, no agenda. And I say, you know what, ladies, group, I want you to help me to write the agenda today. And what that did was I took a risk, number one. Number two, I showed them actually how I build a session so that when they then become facilitators themselves or want to do a session, they actually know how to, right? It's not something I would do early on. Toward the end, you know, and we'll talk about that as we go along. I'm not going to say, well, you should do this or this or that, because I can't gauge the group yet. We'll see as things go on. But yes, you need to be flexible, and you can adapt to the agenda anytime you think you need to. And, you know, just allow God to do the work through you, and He'll guide you. He's never let me down. And he made a very interesting point, your husband, about you don't know what you're learning, he said to you. Now, I would ask him to start rephrasing his his observations of you into a more positive, affirmative, constructive way. And things like, instead of him saying you don't know, it would have been better if he said, it would be great if you had a greater understanding of the material that you are presenting. Because then, if you needed to adapt it or be flexible, you would be able to maybe go in a different direction. Isn't that a little better? Because that rephrasing allows growth within yourself, and you know what? You're listening, you're hearing. But when someone says you don't, you're like, all of a sudden you're closed. You're like, what? You're pointing the finger at me? I just worked hours on this. I'm exhausted, and you're telling me I don't know what I'm learning? Thanks a lot, because I don't need to hear that right now. Right now I just need a hug that everything's going to be okay. Right? So, word phrases of, it would be great if, how might I, how might you, he could have rephrased that as, you know, how might you have a greater understanding of the materials that you're teaching? How might Kathysue help you? How might I, as your husband, help you? Would doing the dishes every night, or cooking for you, or helping you clean a few days before your session, might that help you? You know, right? So a positive, affirmative approach to giving feedback, which is extremely important. And I'm not saying this to be nasty. I think your husband is fabulous. I think he's very, very supportive of you. But I know, but there's a way to be even more supportive, and it's all in word choice and positive feedback. And you can practice this, just the two of you, by saying things like, you know, how might we cook dinner tonight together? How might we study together? How might we read scripture together? It would be great if you could listen to me while I practice my next session and give me some positive feedback or observations. You know, there's all kinds of ways to incorporate these positive rephrasing, in our life today, in our daily living, you know. One of the things when he says you don't know what you're learning, he kind of, that really speaks to the attribute or value of authenticity. That's why when someone says that to a person, it hits. You feel it. You know, because it's like, and you probably don't even know why it hits so hard. But for people like you and I, you know, it's like, what do you mean? I'm trying or whatever. but it falls to authenticity, because if you're teaching something that you don't know anything about, that's not very authentic. However, this is how you get around it. You're honest with your group and you say, you know what, I've never taught this before. So I'm going to try it, and you're going to let me know how well I did. I do that all the time.
I actually told him to watch me, and maybe I didn't tell the group, but I told him. He knows that I've not done that before. It was not my field. It was not. So I was just going through it. At one point, he whispered to me and told me to be a little flexible. Mm-hmm. I must not stick. Mm-hmm. I adjusted at that point. Mm-hmm. So he actually came back from behind and told me I should not stick too much mm-hmm. to the guy. Else it will make the whole thing boring. I should open up. That's when I started opening up and bringing in some live examples mm-hmm. and asking them questions. Mm-hmm. So that actually.
You know what? There is absolutely no reason not to tell the group, this is brand new. I've never done this before. I have never ever taught a group through a third person, a third facility. You know, like I'm third removed. You know, it's the group. There's you, and then there's me. I've never done this before. This is brand new. We're going to make missteps. And there's nothing wrong with... Go ahead.
I told them what I am teaching is supposed to be taught by you, but you are not around. You are the designer of the methodology and the program. So what I'm giving them is what you're supposed to be teaching right here, but you're not around. So I'm going to give the lessons, deliver the lessons the way they are on the guide, lesson guide. So they understood somehow that it's new to me, and we flew and we achieved much from their feet.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're facilitating this. And when this year is done, the whole point of doing this is so that you can do this without my help. Right? Okay. It's not to say that I'm leaving. It's not to say that I won't still be a part of it. But after this year, I know I'm going to feel pretty comfortable with you saying to me, you know what, a year's done, we're going to still have this cohort in some other capacity, and we'll decide what that capacity or that cohort looks like. We're going to start a new cohort. But you know what? You're going to know exactly what to do. Session 1 is always session 1. Session 2 is always, you know what? The first few sessions are always the same. And then from there it starts to branch off according to the group dynamics and what they need to learn, what they need from us. And that's why it always fluctuates after that. But you're going to be able to, trust me, be able to actually facilitate something like that. If you can't, it's not your fault, it's mine. The burden of teaching you how to facilitate and how to teach this program out falls on me, not on you. Okay? So, that's true. And you can tell your husband I said that. So, you know, like you said, the burden is heavy. The burden is heavy. You know? But I know that we're up for it. I absolutely know that we can do this. If I didn't think so, I would never proceed. If I didn't have faith in your skills and your facilitation ability and everything else that you have to do, I would never proceed. I have full faith. I never would set you up for failure, only success. So it's a great learning opportunity. So if there's something you're uncomfortable with teaching, and you've never done it before, tell the group. Be honest. Because when you do, you're exemplifying authenticity, and you're modeling vulnerability, and you're modeling taking a risk, and you're modeling bravery and courageousness and every other good thing there is out there. And they're going to say, well, if you did it, If Seraphine did it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So,
I understand. And again, like I said, I'm someone who is, I've learned to know that I can do all things, maybe through Christ who strengthens me, like the Bible says. And sometimes first things are always difficult. I know the next lesson will be so beautiful. Yeah, the next lessons will be very beautiful. I'm confident. I've adjusted a lot of things, and
the next session will be whatever it's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Oh.
And my fears, I've conquered my fears. My fears have been answered, especially the fear of not having the cohort willing to come maybe twice, and so on and so forth.
So, let me ask you this: do you have any? What else do you need from me? Is there anything you need from me prior to once I receive your report, then making some recommendations or putting an agenda together? Are you good for now until you get that next agenda, and then we can go from there? Is there anything you need before next Tuesday and we speak again?
Those not related to this lessons. I wanted you to send. There was an Excel sheet that had the names of the court members. I misplaced that on my phone. I wanted you to send it to me again. You prepare that and send to me.
Yep.
So I wanted it forwarded to me.
Okay.
So keep track of all things.
And you know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another one with the dates, so we can take attendance, so to speak.
Okay, that'll be better.
So I'll give you the current one, and then I'll give you another one with just their names, and then Saturday's date, and then the next date, which is the 20th. And that way you can see who's showing up and who isn't, who's being consistent and who isn't.
Okay.
And I did send the transportation sheet to Ronnie. She does have it. And she hopefully will submit that today. Yesterday the woman in finances wasn't there for her to give it to. Hopefully she'll be there this week. They're on spring break, which means they're kind of at half-mast, meaning some people are there and some people aren't. But that's okay, because I'm going to submit, how many people you think I'm going to submit for 16 next time. And let's say 8 come, or let's say 10 come. Then you know that we have reserve of 6, costs for 6 people in reserve. Okay? So, and I'll keep a sheet, a running tally on that. And I think with that sheet that I'm going to create with the dates, I think I'm going to add the transportation cost, and we'll see. This way we can figure out how much we have left. I'm going to have Ronnie send those monies to you via World Remit, like I have done in the past, because it's not a huge amount of money, so I feel comfortable giving that to you. Well, because I want you to be safe when you're carrying that around. You know what I mean?
You've said. I said you said that before.
Yeah.
You said that before. Yeah, and you told me not to pick money from the same place.
Yeah. So, so while you're behind the 8 ball this time, for last Saturday, you'll be reimbursed for those monies, and then you will have the monies up front for the next session. Okay?
Yeah, that'll be better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Better.
Yeah. anything else that you need before we talk next time?
Before, the last time we spoke, there were things I had to send to you, some banking details to find out which bank could go well with our banks here. I didn't send that to you, and Barbara's graduation is fast approaching, and I thought that we could, it could be good we kind of put together the needs that we have for the salon, and we could run the fundraising if that's possible.
It is.
Yeah.
I just don't know what that list is. I'm still waiting for that in money. So how much needs to be raised?
Okay. So I'm going to. She sent me the list, and while I was away, I asked her to put in what is needed, and she said that was a little difficult because she sent it on WhatsApp and she could not. So I'm going to download the list again and go to a place and find out the prices and attach to that and send to you. Because I'm thinking that this is already April and we should go operational in June. I mean in July. July. And,
okay.
We have there's this woman in the UK that I was telling you about, that Jill. I don't know if you remember, you connected me to. They have a program with I could also share the link to the donations with her and other people like that.
That's fine. Again, there's nothing I can do until we figure out, we got to make that more tangible. We need to know, we got to flesh that out, make the hair salon more tangible with what you need and how much. And remember, because we did talk about this, remember we're talking about what we need to open up and we need to sustain for a year. So I don't want to fundraise and have just enough money to open up and manage the place for a month or two. I want to have enough money to run that place for 1 year.
That I have with you before the next session. I'm working on that, and I'm also going to send you a couple of banks here, maybe 3 or 2, and you look at the best.
I can do that. I again, once you send that to me, I can contact my bank, and we'll go from there. So waiting on you on that as well.
It's okay. Without which, then the registration certificate, I don't know what has gone wrong. It's taking longer than we thought. But I've been calling, and man says it's pending a signature, just a signature. So he said whenever it's ready, he'll come get it.
Okay. There's nothing we can do about that. We're in a holding pattern with that. So yeah. So sometimes.
Then,
okay.
Is it possible to get all of the lessons together so I can print it out as a manual?
You mean all the agenda lessons for the year?
Yeah, agenda lessons. If I can have them well out of time and put them into and compile it, would that be possible?
No.
Okay, means the one that I've had, I'll keep it. When the next one comes, I'll add to that, and it's okay. I don't know why you say it's not possible.
It's not possible, and I'll tell you why. Number one, we're going to train you to be a little more adaptive and a little more flexible.
Okay.
Number two, I could do all that, but the agendas really are built according to the group. The first few are normal. Like I said, the first few are pretty boilerplate. From there, they kind of detour a little bit here and there. It's always according to the group. So we cannot. We can. That's why I said if I know when the dates are and how long you need it in advance, we can coordinate and get that to you. Yeah, I wish I could say yeah, but you know what? To be honest with you, people have said, why don't you build a manual with what you do? And I say exactly what I just said to you, because I really can't. I can do boilerplate ones, but why spend all that money when? The boilerplate are those 9 methodologies. And from there, and we just never know when we're going to teach out of those, except for the first few sessions. So I can't do that for you. What I can do for you though, is if you tell me, you can say, you know what, every week, and I said I would be giving you exercises every week, but those are exercises that you request. So look at the methodology, the chart, and say to yourself, what do I feel like learning this week?
Okay.
And then I want you to say, send me, text me, call, whatever, and say, you know what? I really want to spend some time this week on the cognitive or the affective skills, this methodology. Or I really want to delve into creative problem solving, the whole process. Or I really want to look at, the emotional and social competencies, whatever it is. Now that I can do for you. You tell me what you need, and I can send that to you.
It's okay. I'm going to do a mail because going through the cohort, I realized some problems. Just looking from that day again after November, I saw a lot of some kind of depression, anxiety, and one of them were really very moody, and I think we need to address that.
Okay, so be a little bit more specific. Are you asking me how do you work with someone like that? Or are you asking me how do I help someone like that? Or both?
Yes, how do I help to get the person balanced and move on?
Who is this person? Is there more than one?
Yeah, it's Jacqueline. Her health situation is not the best, and the whole time she's been too. While I was away, she called. She needed help, and all along in the class, there was no smile, nothing, and my husband told me she's emotionally down. I also noticed that she was emotionally down, so she needs to be brought up.
Okay. Well, talk to me about her. Who is she? What's her situation again?
She has a health situation, and she also told me she has difficulties paying her rent. She needed to learn, and too many complaints and this and that, particularly, and she went to the hospital. They told her she had 2 fibroids that needed to be operated out, and all of that is killing her. She can barely survive. She can barely eat, and she's dark. She has become too dark for the stress. The stress is very obvious. So after the meeting, we needed to speak to her. When everybody was mostly after the meetings, come up with personal issues, personal complaints, what they are going through, so that we can talk and address. So she came to us. I told her I would like her to speak while both of us were there. My husband and I were there. She kind of opened up, and we told her we'll get back to her. And I really want to know a way out, how to address that, to bring her up again.
Well, so if I were this person, if I were Jacqueline, and I had these fibroids, and they needed to be removed, and I was in constant pain, and I couldn't eat, and I can't pay my rent. I'm feeling really lousy physically, and here's someone coming in and telling me, listen, I can help you. You have to just, be hopeful, be optimistic. It's almost like she's in a standstill, and she can't move forward because she knows she can't. She wants to move forward, but she can't because her health is not allowing her to move forward. So how can she move forward in her health in order to be able to move forward into her future? So, like 10 years ago, I think I told you this. It was May 7th, 2008, and I was told that I might have ovarian cancer. And my life literally came to a screeching halt. I couldn't think about anything else except, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I have 2 little girls to take care of who still need their mama. I couldn't think about anything except my health. That was my priority. My priority was, okay, what's going on here? Let's see what's going on. Let me research it. Let me make some decisions. Right now, my world stopped. Literally, my world stopped. And I couldn't move forward. And I'm a pretty optimistic person. And so
Yeah.
I can definitely understand where she's at. Are you there? Are you there? You're there? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Are you there?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Okay, where are we here? Just froze on me. Okay. I'm going to call her. Okay, I decided to call you instead of the video because maybe the video is just too much right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's better. The lines have been breaking suddenly.
Okay. All right, so I don't want to keep you too much longer, but so I think what we need to do with Jacqueline is we need to focus on her health right now. So we need to figure out what she needs, how much it's going to cost, and that's the information I need. And let me see if I can get some donations to have her her health taken care of. That's really what I think our options are. If she has to go somewhere and be in the hospital for a certain amount of time to have this taken care of, what are the costs associated with that? What do we need? What's our game plan? So if you can get that to me, I will approach some people and see if they'd be willing to, I don't know how much something like that costs, but I'll approach some people and see if maybe they are willing to help us. And maybe I'll speak to Ronnie and see if, someone in their medical school can maybe speak to someone over in your country, wherever she goes, that area, and see if somehow we can get that taken care of with maybe Doctors Without Borders or something. I don't know. There's always a solution on some level, but I need something tangible. I need to know what she needs.
Okay, I'm going to get her report, her medical report, because she went to the hospital. Something was said about her head. I'm going to get the medical report to you. If Rani can work that out, we have Doctors Without Borders here in Cameroon because of the crisis. So if we can get that connection, it will be fine.
I will need to know where they are located, Doctors Without Borders, what city. If you can give me any kind of contact information with with them, that would be great. Whatever, the more information you can get me, the easier it'll be the quicker, I should say, it'll be, and easier it'll be to see if we can somehow help her.
Yeah, they are located right in Bamenda, right here.
Okay.
So we do see their cars. They are spotted in some hospitals here. They came in because of the crisis.
All right, and again, I need some contact information on them if you can get it.
It's okay. I'll look for that.
Okay. And then also I need to know what what she needs to have, what she has, what's her diagnosis, and what is her treatment options.
Okay.
And then a cost associated with that.
Okay.
And you can tell her that this is what we've decided to work on. We understand where she's at. We understand that she is at a standstill and really cannot be hopeful or think forward into her future, because this is basically impeding that process. But we would ask her to help us with this information, and be hopeful that we can somehow get this taken care of for her. So maybe we can give her a little snippet or a little seed of hope that we can work with this. I can't promise anything, but I can't promise any of her treatment or her costs taken care of. But what I can promise is that I'll at least go to bat for her, and I'll at least try to get it done.
It's okay. It's okay. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So I'll get that. I'd also asked her to show me what the medical reports were.
Okay.
So she promised that to me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about hope. It's all about being optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like my husband said, when God brings those things to you, he will make provision for us to take care of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just to bring you up to speed a little bit more, although I'm working on a control group, it looks like I might have 3 people in a control group, 1 person in an experimental group thus far, and I'm looking to have several more through Dr. King in the experimental group. And basically, these 2 groups, our contention is that that a person will do better emotionally and psychologically, intellectually, spiritually, all of that, when they go through a more systematic, creative approach one-on-one with someone, as opposed to 1 being completely left on their own, or 2 maybe utilizing a self-help type book like Dr. King's. So I've been working on that, just so you know. Not that you have to do anything with that, so I'm not adding that to your list of things to do. But I think it'll be pretty interesting.
I saw that on your post, the first Facebook post, and my husband was asking what the post was all about, and I told him the control group does not concern us.
Correct. Hopefully it'll show the importance of what we do. So, which is kind of neat. So, and I have not been able to post anywhere on Instagram. They won't let me post anywhere. So, all I can do is throw in a story here or there, like a highlight. So that's been pretty hard. But I did post a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn on several groups. And I'm still working on, this week I'm going to be working on, not this week, but next week I'll be working on a press release. So the other thing that, who is it? Is it Mabel? Who is the girl who wants to be a journalist?
We also told her about that she'll be helping us with some communiques.
Okay, cool. So again, I'll need, maybe she can create some, or someone over there can get us a list of whether it's a newspaper, radio station, TV station, publications, community groups, something like that, so that we can start sending and promoting what you're doing, because not only do we want to create awareness, but maybe we can create some donations.
Yeah.
Okay. So next week, I'm hoping to get that that press release done, and then within a couple of weeks, get that disseminated and sent out to your area, my area, and also to Ronnie's area. So.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything else that you might need or anything like that before Tuesday?
I think for now, we must have exhausted everything. If something comes up, I'll send it to you through WhatsApp or a mail.
Okay. And when will I expect the report from you from session 1?
Today,
Okay.
Today later in the evening.
Okay, cool. All right, that'll give me some time to review and figure out what the next session will be and how to approach that, and so that you'll have plenty of time to review it and also ask for more information from me should you need it.
It's okay. That's beautiful. It's good.
Okay. All right. You've done great.
Thank you very much.
You have. I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you.
Wow, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm learning on the job.
So am I. We're all learning on the job this time, so always learning. All right. Well, I will let you go. You got a lot to get through, I know. And I'll talk to you Tuesday. If you need anything else before that, you just let me know.
It's okay. It's okay. Tuesday 8:30, right?
Tuesday at 8 a.m.
Okay, that's fine.
That's 1 p.m. your time.
Yeah, 1 p.m.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on your second.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Be safe.
Thank you, Mom. Be safe too. Take care.
All right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.